Okay guys, it is time. It is time for another monthly wrap up. It is quite dark, but honestly, it's winter. There's not many days where it's not dark. So I'm just gonna have to film the lighting not as great as I hope, but we're just gonna have to do it anyway. So I'm gonna be doing another wrap up. All the books that I read in February, you know the drill, you know how this goes. And let's just get into it. First, I read Crescent City, House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. This came out at the very end of January, and I, along with so many other people, was so excited about it and read it very fast. I read it in a few days maybe, and I did film a whole reading vlog reading this book, so if you want like my full thoughts, reactions, all that stuff, I'll link that video below. You can watch me fully read it. But this is the third book in the Crescent City series, and personally my favorite in the series. I think it was just the best all around. Like, I feel like in the first two books I got a little bored, but in this book I just had so much fun, and I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, which I love in a fantasy book. So love this so much. I gave it 5 stars because it was just so good. And one couple specifically is like my favorite ever in the series. I feel like they are like the best part of the series, but I also think the series is just so fun and interesting. So if you don't know, this is a urban fantasy, so basically it has like fae and fairies and vampires and wolves and all that stuff, but it takes place in like a modern world with like cell phones, technology, reality TV, that kind of thing, which is so fun. This isn't my favorite Sarah J. Maas series, but it's like second favorite. Like I love Throne of Glass the most, and then Crescent City, and then ACOTAR. I am so excited to see what happens in the next book, even though it's gonna be a while before that one comes out. This one was just so good, and I feel like it was just everything that I was hoping for. And this hardback is just beautiful, so loved it so much. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, it's in the reading vlog. I read Crescent City 1 and 2 in January, and so I didn't have as long to wait for Crescent City 3, but it was so good. Next, I read Glimmers of You by Catherine Cowles. This is the third book, I think, in the Lost and Found series, and it's a romantic suspense. And this is best friends to lovers fake dating, and it's following Caden and Gray, and I really love this one. This is one of my favorites in the series. Caden is like a billionaire. He's very rich, which I love. I love that aspect in a book. And he was like so caring and protective to Gray, which I really loved. And I just really enjoyed this one. This is a like series following siblings. So Gray is the next sibling in the series, and I really enjoyed it. I liked the suspense. I liked the romance. I had a great time. I gave it 4.25 stars. I feel like it was probably like my second favorite in the series. Then I read Shadows of You by Catherine Cowles, which is the next book. This is probably, no, my like second to least favorite in the series. At first I was really enjoying it, and then it got to be like, okay, I'm kind of like over it, but I did still enjoy it. I feel like these books are just so easy to binge. And this follows Rowan and Caddy. It is a single mom trope. I like love single parent tropes. I love kids in books. Like I think it's a great time. So that wasn't really the issue. It's more, I don't really know. I feel like by the end I was just like, I didn't really care as much about the romance, and I kind of got the ick a little bit by the end. So I don't know. I did enjoy this. I gave it like a 3.75, maybe like, I don't know. I feel like 3.75 always good books, but like I need to start giving 3 stars and 3.5. Like you can enjoy a book and still give a book 3.5 stars. I don't know. Also, it's been so long since I read these books. I know I remember nothing about them, if I'm gonna be honest, which kind of tells you about the book, but I just love the series romantic suspense. I have a great time reading them. Then I read Picking Daisies on Sundays by Leanna, I don't know how to say her last name, but I bought this book because I heard good reviews, but also because the cover is just so beautiful. And this is a best friends to lovers fake dating situation. Basically, the female main character is in love with her best friend in high school. Something happens, they don't see each other for 4 years, and then 4 years later they see each other in New York City. They're both in college, and they end up fake dating because he needs like a fake girlfriend for his sister's wedding or something like that, and you're just following them. This is a good funnel time. This, if you're just wanting a cute fluffy rom-com, I definitely recommend. And the female main character is in design school, which I really loved. I love like fashion and that aspect of it. The only thing is this definitely felt like your typical young romance where the issue is they just don't communicate, which was the main like reason for a lot of the conflict. I don't really know, which I get. It's like very much a young book, but that was kind of annoying. I was like, if y'all would just communicate, we could resolve this right now. I did enjoy this book. It was a light fluffy time, and I really liked the writing. There were so many good quotes that I really enjoyed in this book, so I enjoyed it. A good time. Then I read Magnolia Parks Into the Dark by Jessa Hastings. It's so beautiful. Like please look at this OG cover. It's stunning. I found this in my bookstore early. I was literally on the floor. I could not believe my luck. I was so excited. So I have a whole reading vlog reading Magnolia Parks 3 if you want to go watch it, but this book was just absolutely incredible. Like favorite book of the year so far. It is so good. It's the last book in the Magnolia Parks part of the series, but it's not the last book in the series. So if you don't know, the Magnolia Parks universe books is Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates. So there's 3 Magnolia Parks books. There's going to be 4 Daisy Hates books, and you're just kind of following socialites in high society London. They're rich, they're famous, they are flawed characters, and you're just following them and their relationships. Magnolia Parks follows Magnolia and BJ, and then Daisy Hates follows Daisy, Christian, and Julian. My favorite side of the series is the Daisy Hates side, but I do enjoy the Magnolia Parks part of the series, and this was just so good. It was very painful, but very beautiful. There's so much growth and healing. There's also so much character growth with BJ. Like in this book, BJ, this is for the BJ girlies because his character growth is insane, and you just see like how well he loves Magnolia, and like he would do anything for her, and he knows her so well without her ever having to say anything or like explain what she needs. He just gets her, and it's just so good. So I love this book so much. I love this series. It just reminds me of like how God can redeem anything. Me being so spiritual, but I just love it so much. 5 stars from me, and I'm so excited and terrified for the next Daisy Hates books, but you can go watch my video if you want to know more of my thoughts, because I pretty much just said everything in that video. It was beautiful, it was perfect, I loved it so much. Next, I read the last book in the Lost and Found series, Ashes of You by Catherine Cowles. This is my favorite book in the series. It's single dad nanny trope, and it is so good. I feel like the suspense in this one is so good, like you're on the edge of your seat, and the romance is so sweet. I love Lawson, and I feel like we've just been waiting for this book, and it was everything. I loved it so much. He was just so like gentle and protective of her, and like they were just so good together, and the kids were so cute, and the relationship between him and the kids, her and the kids. I feel like some of the books, like the suspense part, felt like either too unrealistic or just like too fast, but I feel like the pacing of this one was so well done, and I loved it. It's my favorite of the series, and I definitely recommend the series. It's romantic suspenses, small town, really enjoyed them. So next, I read My Lucky Charm by Courtney Walsh. This is the second book after My Phony Valentine. Basically, it follows this hockey player, and he was just transferred teams, and he's not very happy about it, and the like coach basically assigns him like an assistant, a babysitter, to make sure he stays in line, just to like get him organized, help him to like transition to the team better. So I did enjoy this book. It was just a fun, quick read. It was a very cute romance, but I did love My Phony Valentine more, and I really enjoyed seeing the characters from My Phony Valentine in this book, because the female main character from that book is the female main character from this book's sister. So you see them a good bit. It was just a fun time. 4 stars. Easy read. Next, Girl Meets Scump by Haley Gardner. I love this so much. It's set in the Pacific Northwest, and it follows Trent, and he is like a carpenter, like owner of these like cabins, and he's grumpy, but he's grumpy because he has social anxiety. I very much related to him being socially anxious. He very much reminded me of Jacob from Yours Truly, which if you know, you know. Like I love Jacob, I love Yours Truly, so he very much reminded me of Jacob, which I really enjoyed, and I just really loved his character. He was very sweet. I feel like he was grumpy, but he wasn't rude. Like I don't like when characters are grumpy, but they're really just rude. Like you can be grumpy and not be rude. Anyways, and the female main character is a like travel blogger, and she just got home from Europe, and she ends up working at Wildwood with Trent, and you just follow them. It's really sweet. I feel like Sydney was just so patient with Trent and him opening up, and it was just so cozy. I love Haley Gardner's books so much, and they're just like comfort reads, so I highly recommend this one. It is just so cozy and sweet and comforting, and I feel like the love was so intentional, not fast, and they were just so good together. So I love this book, and I love Haley Gardner's books in general, so highly recommend. Next, I read Ready or Not by Cara Bastone, and I had seen so many good reviews about this book before it came out, and then it released in February, and I went on release day to get it because I was so intrigued by all the reviews. I was like, this sounds like such a good book. It basically follows Eve, and she has a one-night stand and gets pregnant, and you are following very much like a diary of her pregnancy, and there's also a romance involved, but it's different than any other accidental pregnancy trope book that I've read, in a good way. Like I loved it so much. I feel like the male main character was an angel. Like I feel like I say that all the time about male main characters, but him specifically, he was literally like, he would do anything for her. His perspective on everything was just so good. Like I loved him. He was so sweet. He was so good to her, and I just love that so much. The way Cara talked about like kind of stickier topics was really well done in this book. I feel like it was just such a beautiful story and such a beautiful depiction of pregnancy, and like it might not always be just like positive emotions, but you're just like following her journey. Also feel like the quote, "It takes a village," like about parenthood or about motherhood, really was like shown in this book, which I really loved, and I just thought it was so good. I think about this book all the time, and I feel like it's a book that's gonna stick with me for a very long time because I just loved it and I love the characters and I love like just the story. I feel like it was so much more than a romance. Like the romance isn't a like huge aspect of it, but I just loved the story. It was so beautiful, and it's also set in New York City, which I love a book set in New York City. So highly recommend. Love this book, and I feel like just the male main character, his perspective, the way he showed up for the female main character, and just like her journey, the friendships in this book, it was just so good. So please go read it. Incredible. Okay, so the next two books that I read, I literally cannot believe this. This is one of my best reading months ever, like absolutely insane. So first I read Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which doesn't come out till April. I got an arc of it. I literally cannot believe this, but I'm gonna do this to you. I'm not gonna say much about it because I know how frustrating it is when somebody gets an arc of a book that I want an arc of. I'm like, that stinks. So I'm not gonna talk much about it. It's also not out yet, so I don't want to give anything away. I'm just gonna tell you that I gave it 5 stars. It was perfect, everything that I was hoping for. A little more on the emotional side, like it kind of wrecked me, but it was just so good. So good. And then I also read The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. Are you joking? This was everything. I loved it so much as well. I just loved it. It was so good. Everything I was hoping for, and it does have spice in it, but she has like a spice thing at the very beginning of the book where it says like, skip this chapter if you don't want spice. So I thought that was well done, and I just love Sarah Adams' books. So I'm not gonna say anything else about that book either because it's not out yet, and I don't want to like harp on it too much. So anyways, then I did a reread of More Than Just Us by Ali Atosky, which comes out this month in a couple weeks, which I'm so excited about. So I've harped on this book so much, so I'm not gonna say much about it. I loved it so much. It was so good. I just reread it when she sent me like the e-book version of it. Incredible. Like literally I feel like this book is just gonna give people hope, and it's just so good. Like Ali is just absolutely insane. So I'm not gonna talk too much about that because it was just, we already know. Then I read Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey. This was a very spur of the moment, like impulse purchase at Target because I saw it. I read the synopsis and I was like, that sounds good, and I bought it. I've only read It Happened One Summer and Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. Really enjoyed those, and I just haven't found another book by Tessa Bailey that sounded interesting, but this one sounded interesting. So it's about this like golf star, and he has this like #1 fan, and basically she ends up being his caddy on his tour, like his whatever it's called, golf tour. I don't really know. This was just a fun time. Like I enjoyed it. I probably won't think about it again, but I just had a blast reading it. I do think this is very spicy. Like if you follow me for Closed Door Recs, just don't pick this book up because it's so spicy. Like you're probably just not gonna enjoy it. And I had never read a book about a golfer, so that was fun, and I just thought it was a good time. Not something I'll remember, but in the moment I had a good time reading it. But it is very spicy, so I'll probably skip this one unless, like, I don't necessarily think the plot is worth the spice, but I did have a good time reading it. So next I read The Exception to the Rule by Christina Lauren, which is one of the novellas in the Meet Cute series. I think this one is so good. I literally gave it 5 stars because it was so good. It's mostly written in emails, and it's about this girl who, the guy I think like accidentally emails her instead of his teacher, and they end up like saying Happy Valentine's Day to each other for years, and you just follow them. It was so good, like such a good novella, and I was just like smiling and giddy, and also helped me get out of my slump. So I just really just wished it was longer because it was that good. Highly recommend this little novella. Lastly, I read an arc of The Rom-Commers by Catherine Sinner. I really enjoyed this book. I really like Catherine Sinner's writing and how like the main character is essentially telling you a story. I think that's very fun, and I feel like she always like has kind of like more emotional topics, but she does it in a very beautiful way where you're like learning something, and I feel like you like learn life lessons in her books, which I really enjoy. But this one, I felt like at the beginning the male main character was a bit rude. Like he just came off rude, and by the end you really start to like him, but I just feel like it was unnecessary. Like the character we saw at the end of the book, I was like, this doesn't translate to the character we saw at the beginning of the book. Like why was he being so rude? I don't know. So that bothered me, but overall I enjoyed it. This book also isn't out, so I won't harp on it too much, but I gave it 4 stars. Not as good as The Bodyguard. It's still my favorite by Catherine Sinner that I've read, and you see Jack from The Bodyguard in this, which I really love too. So it was a quick bingeable read that taught me something, which I always love. So that was all the books that I read in February. I'm trying to be more concise with my reviews, but I feel like I keep saying the same thing over and over again. So I hope this was helpful, enjoyable, fun. I don't know, but let me know what you read in February and what you want to read in March, and I think that's it. So I'll see you very soon for our next video. Bye.